Doc
And
boy.
we're live.
And
Hello,
we're
everyone.
live! Woo! Welcome back to 4 O'Clock Funnies. We have the second man ever on the show.
I look like the second man ever. Boy.
Please welcome Kevin Flynn. And we also have back Christine Hurley, and Kelly McFarland, and Kathy Ferris. And thank you, Catherine Rose, for setting us up. We're so grateful. We love Wise Her.
Thank
But
you.
we're going to go back to, how shall I say, interrogating Kevin. We just figured out that we're an all Irish show because Catherine Rose's maiden name is Catherine Foley. So
I'm Scottish. I don't mean to break it to everybody.
Oh, there's a Protestant in our midst. Get her.
when did that happen? You seem Irish. It's all right.
Thank you so much. You're broken and mad.
You seem Irish. I seem divorced. You seem Irish.
Yeah.
Oh, Kevin, you will love this. Last week,
Yeah.
Brad Zimmerman looks at
He doesn't look Irish.
Kathy and says, "You look divorced." And they're like, "Oh my God."
He was flirting with me.
Yeah.
That's a Brad way of flirting. It was a little heavy-handed, I thought.
worked.
How did it work out, Kathy? Is there a date happening in the offing?
We have been texting back and forth. It's going real well. It's going great. My Wi-Fi is a little weird, so that's making it interesting.
I don't know Zimmerman that well.
Oh, you don't? Oh, I thought you know so many of the New York comics. I thought you did.
Yeah. Well, I'm a Boston comic. You can't get rid of that. That never goes away.
So listen, what I'm curious is, I know that you and Kelly
Stuff together,
really,
yes.
Yeah.
It was a sordid affair, summer 1998.
Exactly. She had just broken up with Brad Zimmerman.
Every Friday guest says the same thing. Go ahead.
Christine, do you have anything to say before I go on? I'm happy.
When Kevin and Kelly slept together, I was the fluffer.
Yeah. Yeah.
I knew it. I knew she had something going on in her head. I just knew it. Okay.
Hey, hold on. I need no fluffer.
Okay.
We all need a little help sometimes, Kev.
Yeah,
Don't be
that's true.
embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed. It was actually for me. It wasn't even for Kevin. It was a Christine fluff to me. And if you don't know what a fluffer is,
And it
Let
was
me-
great.
This show has just taken a turn. Okay. Anyway.
we were already on this road, Jane. You just didn't know it.
I don't actually know what a fluffer is.
Oh, Kathy, I'm so
Hey.
glad you asked.
No wonder you're divorced.
No, she's not divorced.
I'm not divorced, but my marriage isn't. Yeah.
All right.
All right. Get him a fluffer. We'll get him.
Flux.
Her husband was doing a project outside her door the whole last show, and she was like, in a very nice way,
Typical
internalizing her anxiety
Hmm.
and discomfort. But anyway, but we want to know how you got started, Kevin. We up in New Hampshire, Maine, North Shore, Massachusetts. Where were you? Or did you start college, UMass Amherst? I don't know.
Was that a question or was that 7? I think, hold on. I was a soccer player. After I graduated from college, I played soccer for a couple of years. And when I was on the road, which was like constantly, I started to write a little bit. And I started to watch the Letterman monologues and try to figure out how I could write jokes. So when my soccer career was over, many would argue it never began. I always tell people, I go, I announced my retirement from professional soccer. And when I say I announced my retirement, I mean I told my parents. That was the extent of it. So I went to graduate school at Boston University, where I was the assistant soccer coach.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I was basically going to school in the day, coaching soccer in the afternoon, and at night I would hang out at the comedy clubs. Nickerson Field was right behind Stitch's Comedy Club there. And I remember I went in with the head coach. We went in on a Sunday afternoon. We were in a tournament. We were coming up with the lineup, and we're sitting at the bar having a beer, and I'm watching an open mic night with George McDonald, Comedy Hell, he used to call it. And I watched the comedians, and then, all of us have been to open mic nights, and boy, can people really suck. And it was a particularly bad evening where one person after the other was going up and they were just bombing. And I looked at him and I go, I think I could do this.
Yeah.
He goes, I think you could too. So I started to take some of the things that I had written, and I wrote, of course, a sports bit that was like a gay figure skater, sort of. I did something in a black accent. I did like every sort of stand-up comedy 101 mistake I made. But I did this sort of interview that seemed a lot like the Bob Nelson interview, but it went over really, really well. And I started to get, some heat from that. And about 2 years after I started, I entered this competition, which used to be in Boston, called the Boston Comedy Riot. And it was,
yeah,
it was
way
a
back.
big deal.
Yeah.
And I always tell
Big
people
deal.
this was sort of, it was a 4-year window where they had this event. And what it was all the great headliners, Sweeney, Gavin, Lenny Clark, they would all host. It'd be at the Paradise Rock Club in Boston. It'd be 450 people every night of the week. WBCN would run it.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
So I was in the final week. I got selected in the final week. And listen to who I beat in the final week. Louis C.K., David Cross,
Whoa.
Mark Maron, Nick DiPaolo, Vinny Favorito, Tom Cotter, Jackie Flynn,
Wow.
and Janine Ruffalo. So Janine and
You
I,
should have
Wow.
retired right then.
I'm
That's
the only one who's not famous from that whole group. So it was,
it ain't
Oh,
over,
that's
Kevin. It ain't over.
Yeah.
yeah, but it was like, so at that point, I started to make some money. And I always laugh because my friends would come to shows and I'd come off stage and they'd be like, you get paid for that?
Yeah.
You get paid for that? And I used to tell them the benefits were fantastic. And they're like, what are they? I go, free booze and cute waitresses. I'm like, those were the benefits. And I thought they were great. Now I'm like, how about a 401k and a dental plan? Which would be nice.
Do you still have your soccer show?
Over the ball.
Radio?
Yeah. Yep. It was on, it started off at Sirius XM FC, the soccer channel. And it became the #1 show after 8 months. And I
Wow.
told Nick DiPaolo that it was the #1 show in the soccer channel. And he said, that's like being the tallest Mexican, Kevin. So, and then, so it was there for a year and then it went to ESPN for 2 years and now it's on its own. So, and
Is that, you mean like on YouTube when you say it's on its own, or a podcast?
it's
or?
on iTunes and.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Is that how you met Bob Lee, your host at the comedy?
No,
festival?
in '94, I hosted. I had a show on ESPN called "The Road to the World Cup Soccer,"
Wow.
and so Bob was the live event host, and I was doing all the stories out in the field. So I'd gotten into hosting out in Los Angeles. So
And you did time in LA? I didn't know that either.
I did time. Yeah, I lived in LA for 3 years. I tell the story. I've written a one-man about it a little bit because I was out in LA. I was not happy because I was doing stand-up a bunch, but I was hosting television shows, and so I didn't get to do stand-up as much as I wanted. Now I'm like, I think I was crazy to think that, but I was hosting a show on ESPN, 2 shows actually. One called Sports Figures, which was a children's show about teaching them science and math through sports. And then The Road to the World Cup I hosted. So I had that. And then I got a show on the Discovery Channel called Go For It. And it was an outdoor adventure show. And it basically sent me all over the world for a good year and a half. So I lived in LA for 3 years, but I wasn't there very much. I was on the road quite a bit. And then the show was seen in 39 countries, and I was able to go to other countries and
Wow.
perform there and stuff. So, but then it's funny. The girl I was dating wanted to get married, and I didn't want to get married, and so we broke up. And she went back to New York, where she lived in New York. She had come out to visit me and sort of gave me this ultimatum. And I said, no, I don't want to get married. I love her, didn't want to lose her, but I didn't want to get married. And I broke up on like a Tuesday. On Thursday, I got a call from my mother that my father had lung cancer, and it sort of shook my world a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm from a very close Irish Catholic family, as most of us all probably are on this call. And
How many sisters? I know you have a lot of sisters.
I have 3 sisters. Yeah, 3 sisters who are all very funny, much funnier than me, many would argue. But it sort of rocked my world a little bit. My girlfriend got on a plane, came back out to comfort me during this time. And we went out to dinner on a Friday night, came home. My house was in Hancock Park, Los Angeles. We were walking to my front door and we got robbed. 2 guys, 2 guns. And it was pretty horrific.
Wow.
They separated us. I got down on the ground. Uh,
Oh my
th-
God.
there was a problem with her, and she was getting down in the wrong direction, so they pushed her, and when I stood up, I was already on the ground face down. He hit me across the back of the head with the gun,
Oh
and
my.
Oh, that's
sort of
awful,
lost
Kevin.
I
Oh
sort
my
of lost consciousness for a moment, and then he pulled the hair in the back of my head, pushed the gun to the base of my skull, and I thought I was a dead man.
Oh.
And so when I got through that, basically, I sort of sat on my couch and thought, here my dad is sick, and I could have died tonight, and what did I really have to show for it? So I decided at that point to get married. So I literally got married at gunpoint. Tell people.
I knew
And
you couldn't resist. Oh my God.
well, but it's all true. So
But you earned it. You earned that story.
and then I moved to New York basically at that point, like the next week.
And is that Caitlin's mom then?
That's
Your
Caitlin's
daughter?
mom, yeah.
Ah.
And I got
Yeah,
divorced. I got divorced 7 years later. So it does end happily, the story.
Oh God, you're terrible. Oh my God, you're so
You're
terrible.
such a romantic.
Kevin, what did you study in college?
Communication, soccer, really. I was a
Yeah.
soccer player pretty much. No, yeah, I played soccer at college, and I was a communications major. So I enjoyed it, the University of Massachusetts. Where did you go, Kelly? Did you go there?
University of Southern Maine.
Ah,
Yeah,
good
it's the only
for them.
school
Did your
that would
daughter
take
play
me.
soccer? Does your daughter have the love of soccer?
No. She was athletic, but she could care less. Read books constantly. She's very smart. Takes after her mother, thank God. And she's a sophomore at WashU now in St. Louis.
Oh wow,
Oh,
what a great school.
Yeah,
Like
great.
you're selling yourself short though, Kev, because
Yeah.
you are actually so good with kids and should have been, I mean, you should have been exactly who you are. And I was surprised that you said communications because I would think you studied teaching because you're so good with
Education.
kids.
Well, it's funny that you say that, Kelly, because I enjoy teaching the kids with Stand Up
Yeah.
and Learn, as you know. And it's funny how we all wind up somewhere in life. For a long part of my life, I wanted to be rich and famous. Now
You're gonna have to settle for fame.
I'm good. I enjoy what I'm doing, and things could be a little better in any one of our spheres, but I've enjoyed how my life has turned out so far. I really have. Two of my sisters are teachers, so I think that's
Oh,
probably a good indicator.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
well, on a totally different. Anybody want to ask Kevin another question?
Kevin, where did you grow up?
Madison, Connecticut, where I am right now, just sitting out this quarantine.
Perfect.
I
Perfect.
know.
And
And,
Kevin,
all of us, it must be interesting. Like all of us in the entertainment business, it's interesting. I was just telling this story. You kind of have to be careful when you go back to your hometown because things that become sort of commonplace for us are bigger to other people. I remember when I first came back here, and I was sitting at a bar with some of my friends, my buddies who played football, and they're all landscapers now, working with no belts on, and all their kids play soccer, which I think is so funny because they were all football players, and they thought something was wrong. Oh, hold on, someone's
It's probably Oprah.
could you imagine if it was me asking you a question?
I have a follow-up.
I want to ask you something.
I'm actually I'm going to rent my Connecticut house.
You are?
Yeah, I'm renting the house. I'm going to move back to LA, believe it or not, in September.
What?
So
What?
Yeah.
That's a switch. Why? Weather? You like earthquakes? What?
well,
A girl? What?
my girlfriend is, got another promotion. Jesus, it's nice when people get promotions.
Oh, yay.
Yay!
I'm going to support her. Us comedians, we're like gypsies. We can live anywhere.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
what was I
Kevin,
saying? Was I?
I don't
I
know, but
love you in LA. You were
I have a
saying
question.
Hmm?
I want to know when you played that role on Sex in the City, I believe it was Man Who Goes Down on Woman.
Oh,
How did you study? How did you study for that, Kevin?
Oh,
What was your process? How did you prepare? Jane loves these questions, Kevin. Go ahead.
also, it's a family show. Go.
It's not. It's
Well,
not.
I studied very hard for many years.
la 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 la.
No, I'll tell you this. I'll tell you two things.
Because it was with Charlotte, right?
How do you audition for that part?
Well, basically it was actually the first time Charlotte ever showed her breasts on the show.
Oh,
Wow.
And so Jimmy Dunn shot me a screensaver of 4.7 million downloads of my scene with Charlotte because it was like she had her top off. But
yeah.
it's very funny. But I'll tell you the story. It went in there. We go in and it's very odd, and there are 3 different directors. So the directors didn't really have much power. The women had the power, the sort of the actors. And so I went in and I'm doing my role. And so I'm basically they put me in this thing called a cod piece, which is like a cup. And then like a sort of you're wearing like sort of a Speedo with a cup in front.
Okay.
Like anybody could get aroused in front of 47 people,
if
I
anyone could,
want more money if I'm going to do that. So anyway, then they have a guy who pulls the sheets back for me, and I'm like, I think I could have covered that one on my own. I could have handled that one. So I get in bed with Charlotte, and
That's nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
and she had a penis, so it wasn't. No, I'm kidding. Did you jump the gun on that one, Jane? So I get in bed with her, and so she says to me, and I'm just a day actor, right? I'm just there, and I'm playing this doctor, and so she goes, "Do you mind not getting in between my legs, like right in between my legs? Can you like lay to the side?" And I'm like, "Sure,"
side saddle.
Side saddle, which I don't know how that works.
I've been there.
Apparently, I've got like a highlight curved penis. I don't know
Yeah.
how it's going to work. This is a family show?
No.
All right.
It was.
Yeah, so I don't know how I'm supposed to be having sex with her if I'm lying on the side of her legs,
Yeah.
right? So I go, "Oh yeah, of course." So I get in there, and the director comes out and goes
What
says
was
to me,
that?
"What are you doing? Is that how you have sex?" I'm like, "No, Charlotte told me to, but Kristen, call it Kristen.
Yeah.
Kristen told me he goes, well, it looks like you're lying on the side of her. You're supposed to be having sex, you two." She goes, "Oh God," like she's like she's like, "All right, get in there." All right.
That was a good impression.
Yeah, to get in there. So
She's such a Charlotte.
we started doing it, and I wasn't the go down on you guy.
Oh, that's right. You
I
were the
was
full
the,
sex guy.
I fell asleep on top
Fell
of
asleep. That's right. That's right.
right.
Oh my
So
God.
we start making out, and then I start to kiss her neck, and I fall asleep on the thing. And
Oh.
she says, Bram, and I startle awake. She goes, "Were you sleeping?" And I go, No, I was just resting my eyes. And so as I would snap up like that, the sheets would fall off of my shoulders, and her breast would be exposed. So she said to me, she goes, "Well, I know I'm topless, but," she goes, "will you just not sit up like that so the sheets don't fall back?" And I go, "Okay," So then I do that again, to do the scene again. We make out. I kiss her neck. I fall asleep. She goes, "Bram," and I go. And the director comes out and goes, "What was that neck movement?" I go, "I'm trying not to sit up." He goes, "Why wouldn't you sit up?" I go, "Well, because Kristen told me not to." He goes, "Who's directing here?" So she goes, she got a little pissed, and she decided to close the set. So she closed the set. Now, if you've ever been on a closed set, I mean,
No.
the set had about 45 people walking around, caterers, and I don't blame it. The woman's going topless for the first time. She feels self-conscious. They closed the set, which means the director, the cameraman, and the 2 actors. So that was who was there. So it was interesting. It was interesting, to say the least.
Well, let me just say this. My husband has never paid attention to any of these 4 o'clock funnies, and he's been in the background the entire time he's talking about
Yes.
pretending to get milk.
Yeah. And that's
You,
not even your
Jeff.
kitchen, Kathy.
I'm spackling.
Jeff.
I'm spackling, he said.
That's what you call it now, you kids.
You got any other great stories, Kevin? I didn't. You have a lot of stories.
With the Sex and the City one was, I'll tell you this. I did Law and Order, and I've never even seen the episode, believe it or not. I played an Officer Control Warden Harrington, and I'm a dog warden. So I come in to the to the scene. They want to outfit me, give me wardrobe, right? So I go, great. They take all my measurements. And so the next day I show up for this part.
Dog wardrobe. Sorry, Kev.
Yeah, and it's a dog is attacked. A dog has attacked people in Central Park, and I found it. And I go up to Jerry Orbach and the other guys. I jump in the scene and I grab them all, and we all run up to the park at 72nd Street where the next dog attack was. So I go to wardrobe the next day, and I have my own trailer, and I'm just like, great. And they give me the clothes, they lay them out for me. I put them on. The clothes could not have been tighter. They were like just the white T-shirt, blue tight top with the metal, with the badge. I've got these tight pants on with boots that go up to my knees. And I'm walking around like Foghorn Leghorn with the chest. And I'm like, the pants are too tight. I said, I'm walking around, and I'm actually in the Upper West Side of Manhattan walking around, going into a coffee shop. Oh, the coffee's on us, sir. Thank you, officer. I'm like, you're welcome.
Lieutenant Dangle.
I want to know how was the clothes set with Sam Waters?
I didn't do it with Sam Waters. It was with, I didn't do that part. I was with Jerry Orbach and the black dude.
Oh, even better.
Yeah. Jerry Orbach, wonderful guy. But-
Dirty Dancing Dad.
So I say to the wardrobe person, I go, wow, man, these clothes are too tight. This is, look, she goes, that's exactly what you would look like if you were an officer control warden. I'm like, really? I go, because it just feels really, really tight. She's like, no, that's what you look like. So I'm like, okay. So Orbach and the other dude have this long scene, and I jump in the middle of it. And I go, guys, we found the dog. It's up at the 72nd Street crossway. You go with me. I'll go with Harrington, and we all jump out. So, but they have a long scene before I jump in there. So they're going through their long scene. Very first take, they go to the scene. My cue comes in. I walk in. I bend over. I go, hey, guys. And as I bend over, my pants go whoosh.
Sorry.
Completely. I mean, the pants were so tight that the pants ripped. My boxer shorts underneath ripped.
Wow.
And my
Your
whole...
balls were out?
Not yet.
No.
No.
Kelly. Please.
That's a legit question.
No.
Oh,
Then it was
well,
a
I don't know.
crossover with Sex and the City. Charlotte walks by and is like, hey.
When are my balls not out, really?
I mean,
Come on.
fair.
So the whole thing splits. And Jerry Orbach looks and goes, whoa. The wardrobe woman was like, I guess, yeah, I guess.
That's a good review. That's a good review.
I've never seen it. I've got to watch that episode. So.
Oh my God. I have a friend who just watches Law and Order again and again and again and again and again. They're people who really.
What show did you do where you were at like a cocktail party and was that Schitt's Creek?
No, that was the Heartbreak Kid with Ben Stiller.
That's what the Heartbreak.
Here, it's a funny story about that one. Ben doesn't look very good in this one, but I knew his parents, Ann and Jerry, and I'd have dinner with them. I mean, I was very close to them. So I go basically do the same thing I always do when I'm with a celebrity. You just say hello and don't really try to chat, and they eventually will come over and talk to you because you're not crazy and bothering them.
Yeah.
So I knew Ben knew who I was. So I was on the scene, and we're in this big scene. You see, it's like 450 extras. We're supposed to be in San Francisco, and it's this wedding that's happening. He's trying to find his table, and I walk by, and I'm supposed to play this effeminate gay man, and I had my hair highlighted and all kinds of stuff. And he says, excuse me, are you the wedding coordinator? And I'm like, oh, what do you just go up to the first gay man you see and say, oh, you must be the wedding coordinator? He goes, no, that's what. And so we have this little tete-a-tete. And then, so I do the scene, and Peter Farrelly goes, great, man, I like that. He goes, do you have anything you want to add, like maybe a voice or anything? I go, well, I do this Hispanic effeminate man character. I said, maybe we can try it in that. He goes, all right, give it a shot, So Ben comes up and says, are you the wedding coordinator? And I go, oh, what is that? You just go up to the first man that you see and say, oh, you must be the wedding coordinator. Oh, look at you. That's so nice of you. Well, I do it as that character. And then Pete yells, cut. And 450 people applaud. They thought it was great. I'm like, oh man, that scene's going to stand out in the movie.
Yeah.
And then I watched Ben walk over to Pete, said something to him. And then Pete comes over and goes, all right, he doesn't want you to do that. And I was like, oh man.
Oh.
Okay.
He thought it was too much like the Birdcage. So.
Oh. Are you going to do more acting then when you go back out to LA? This could actually be very good for you.
Maybe, I don't know. I did a play last summer on Nantucket, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. Really did. I did California Suite, and it
Oh,
was
right.
it's
Right.
really, really fun. It's as comedians, all of us, how to wait for the laugh. And the one thing that I noticed with the actors is they didn't always know how to wait for the laugh. And so I was like, we're laugh whores, so it's like, well, you're just whores, but no. Sorry, this is a joke there.
It's the horse
Um,
fits.
Oh, no, you're right.
It's like a Lenny Clark joke. But I realized, I said to them, guys, I said to one of the actors, I go, you're getting a huge laugh there. Let it,
Yeah.
play out. So we live for, these laughs. So I found it so much fun. The other part that I enjoyed was that it was a team effort, and I have that
Yeah.
sort of athletic background, and it,
Right.
we're so alone in stand-up. The one thing I loved about Boston was, walking off stage and my friends would give me good lines to try, and everything was a real camaraderie there. But for the most part, as you become a headliner, you just travel the country alone. So you're just so happy to be with other comedians at times. So,
Do you
I
have
feel
a
like
favorite?
you're like that, Kevin, though, because when I first met you, I mean, I feel like I've probably known you 20 years now or so.
Wow.
And when I first met you, I remember you were like, hey, we were doing shows together. I was opening for you at the Comedy Connection in Portland. And you were just like a guy that just wanted to hang out. Like you were like, I'm gonna get some food. You want some food? And I was like, I love food. And then we went and we had food and we had drinks, and like it was just like you're such a guy that like you like the camaraderie, I guess. And
You make it a
I've
party.
always really loved that about you. Like you're so
Oh,
fun
thank
to
you.
hang with. You're a good hang, sir. You're a good hang.
Well, the thing I miss sometimes with the comedy festival is I don't get to hang with everybody. I'm like overwhelmed all day. But I was talking about it last night with some friends about one of the other things that I miss about when you start out as a comedian is we'd all get in a car together in Boston and we drive to New Hampshire for 2 hours. Who's going to open? Who's going to close? To how it went. We drive back together. We drop each other off, and you get to know people over the course of the few years that you're trying to learn how to be a comedian, how to try to learn this crazy business we're in. And so we miss each other. We miss each other when you start to get kind of successful in a way, and then you don't get to hang with everybody so much. I mean, who's hanging out in the back of the comedy clubs now for hours like we used to? It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing I would say about our late friend Vic Henley. He was really the social director for that comedy festival, because I'm kind of working and I'm trying to please sponsors and patrons and everyone else, and I enjoy it, but I don't get to hang with the comics so much. And Vic just would walk into a room and everybody would light up. You could drop that boy anywhere.
That's a real loss to the comedy
Yeah.
community. I'm really sorry. And we look forward to having the Nantucket Comedy Festival next year.
Yep.
That will be great when that comes out. Do you have a favorite comic?
No, I mean, I have ones that I sort of admired when I grew up. I mean, I think for me, I were like George Carlin, obviously.
I usually say to people, Carlin or Pryor.
Yeah, and those are my two that I always mention right away. A lot of people say Lenny Bruce, but it didn't hit me as that.
Yeah.
What Pryor, for a long time, I'd say maybe about 15 years ago, 20 years ago, there was a big trend in comedy to be a straight monologist, just talk into the microphone and not even hold it in your hand. And I used to say, like, I'd love to be so physical on stage and move around. I'd love to do
That's one of your
voices.
big strengths. I love that you're physical.
Right. And I'd love to tell stories. And I used to always have a little crisis of confidence, as we all do in this business, to say, like, well, what is my true self? What is my true voice? What do I want to do? But also, what's going to get a good response from people, right? I've seen some people do stuff that they love that no one else in the audience loves, and they stick to it. I'm like, oh, God bless them, But I forget what the point was there.
It doesn't. No, we're all laughing because we know what you mean.
Yeah.
But I used to watch Richard Pryor, and I'd say he does voices, he walks around stage, he mimics, he tells stories. It's exactly what I wanted. And so I got to the point where I'm like, I'm not going to apologize for anybody for being physical on stage or doing voices or, because Pryor did it, and that's the guy who I loved watching. And Carlin had this work ethic that was just unbelievable. The guy wrote every day. What I remember when I was living in LA, I was friends with like a group of guys. It was like Judd Apatow and Adam Sandler. And I remember Adam Sandler. I auditioned for the Improv and I passed, and Adam passed on the same night. And we went out to this club called Jones's in LA. And I remember I'm all preppy, I'm dressed kind of preppy. Adam's like in a Hawaiian shirt and a hat and acid wash jeans and white sneakers, and we walk into this place, Jones's, and everybody just turns and looks, and they're all like wearing black turtlenecks and glasses and it's dimly lit. And we felt like two turds in a punch bowl, just like looking around. And I remember we sat at the bar and he looked at me and said, I feel like such a loser in here. And I'm like, I know, man, these people are just giving us attitude. So we drink our beer and we leave. Well, I see Adam maybe 20 years later at the comic strip in New York. And I go, hey, Sandman. That's what we used to call him, Sandman. I go, hey, Sandman. He goes, Flinny. He goes, do you remember going into that bar, Jones's, that night? You and I go, I do remember that. Why? He goes, don't you realize that all those people were like just trust fund losers and grips, and nobody had a job, and we were feeling bad about ourselves, and we were 28 years old passing at the Improv, So it's funny. And then he got Saturday Night Live like literally months later, a month or two later.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow. What was his act the same? Did he bring his act to Saturday Night Live, or was he different?
Yeah, no, he brought a lot of his act to Saturday Night Live. He had really weird characters, and he'd go on late at night, and he would never do like really, really well. It just was different. He had a combination of the comics would always laugh, which is always a good sign, but the audience would laugh as well. Just
he's just very likable, and
his roommate was Judd Apatow.
That helps.
And
we all roomed with the wrong person.
That's the problem.
Well, I tried. Not that he was Judd Apatow at the time, but when Adam went to Saturday Night Live, I was going to take his room. And so he said, get over there, man. He goes, because I told Judd, and I don't want to lose my security deposit or anything. I'm like, all right. So I headed over there, and Judd meets me at the door, and he's by the pool area. It was just condos. And I said, what's up? Did you give the room away? He goes, just gave it away. Just gave it away. He goes, she's coming over to check it out now. And I look down the pool, and this beautiful blonde is walking towards him on the pool. And I'm like, oh, I got it. All right. Yeah. But Judd told me years ago, he's a very sweet guy. He told me years ago, if you write for an hour a day, you will be ahead of 98.8% of all the comedians in the country. And
I believe that.
Totally true.
That is the best advice. I have to tell you, Kevin, this show has been a real compliment to you because we're not usually this quiet. I loved hearing all your stories. I think you're going to be very big in LA. Think of it, you'll be the new fresh face out there, and that'll.
No, look, I don't know.
I think your girlfriend's doing you a favor in a way.
Well, my daughter's in college. I don't want to give up my house here. I'd like to, hold on to it. We're gonna do an academic rental, I think. So, giving up the apartment in Manhattan, gonna rent out the house here, and then move to LA in the fall. I think nobody knows what to do because of the whole COVID thing.
Exactly. Exactly.
I think it's gonna be a while. I think for all of us, until the vaccine, we're on Zoom shows.
Right. I know, but I wonder what the fall. Hurley, we were talking about this last week or 2 weeks ago about what is going to happen to the comedy industry. I think a lot of people might actually fall out.
Yeah, exactly. I think so, Kevin. I think that the kids that were trying to get traction and, were maybe just starting to do more than open mics, I think that's it for them, the poor things. That's what I think. I mean,
I wonder about that because when you're young, you don't mind getting kicked in the face and trying to open up doors and stuff.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about stand-up, when they tried to get some minorities on Saturday Night Live, they tried to figure out how come we can't get Black and Hispanics, and they were trying to figure it out and looking at it, and it turned out that an inordinate amount of performers were sons and daughters of somewhat wealthy people, lawyers, doctors.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh.
that you could basically subsidize your kid a year or two after college to hang around the comedy clubs. And
Huh.
really, that wasn't our gig, but I think
Oh,
you look at like the comedy clubs, you got to hang around and try to get on open mic nights. You're not getting paid. In fact, you're paying. So how do you start for 2 or 3 years? How do you live in New York? How do you live in Boston if you're not being helped in some way? I mean, I was fortunate enough to be there for college, for grad school. So I kind of got an apartment, and I was bartending too. It was, but how do you start? And so I think a lot of those kids will not be coming back.
I think an advantage that the young kids have now, though, is a lot of them start in college. Like,
Yeah.
there's a built-in audience. I've seen a few of them come up.
right. True.
But for right now, I feel so sorry for them, because any show I get now is through old friends.
Yes.
They don't have the friends yet. They don't have the posse, the group, the
Yeah,
comedy.
but you look at like Aziz Ansari, right? He studied at NYU, so he's got an apartment in Manhattan, right?
Yeah.
He's learning, he's writing in class, he's doing film projects, but all these things that I would have loved to have done in college that just they weren't available to us.
Right.
Technology that's available. And I remember I would walk into the comic strip in New York, and I was able to just go on a lot. But we used to call something on the right called Losers Lounge, where you'd walk in and everybody on the right would be in Losers Lounge, and literally, I mean, you think this is why it's young people, because the show would end at about 12:30, and there were 4 or 5 people in the audience, and they were waiting to go on then.
Unreal.
And sometimes they'd go on with no one in the audience, just to go through the motion of, so we had, lovingly called it Losers Lounge, and Aziz Ansari was there every time. But he's a college kid. Who cares? You don't mind getting sand kicked in your face. And
Right. You're right.
I respect, like, a lot of you guys have had the path of, like, you're a housewife or a mother, and then you somehow have to go and do that.
I couldn't do the late night hang. So what I did was, instead I went to my kids' games, and I would entertain the people in the stands. And they were so happy, because there's nothing else to do. I'd say, your kid just scored a goal. You might.
It's baseball, Jane.
Young generation's going to be fine. Like, I think that they're not going to be successful necessarily, all of them, but they're not scared of technology. They'll do anything. They put their shit out there. I feel like the folks that were making a living doing stand-up, like, actually got there. This is going to be like, you got to be brave, right? You got to not be afraid, because otherwise get on the train or get run over by it.
It's pivot or die. I feel
like,
if you don't get on the tech train, it's bye-bye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very true, Kelly, because it's all about relevance.
Right.
And if you go away.
I'm just, what I'm surprised at, because I have a weekly show and I book it, the amount of people that just don't want to do it. I don't know if they think like, oh, we're going to go back to whatever we had before, or I don't do it. It's like from week 2 is like adapt.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That this might not be 100%, but this is a part of like what this is right
I feel
now.
like we're like athletes, like you, Kevin, with the soccer. We have to do it.
Right.
I don't care if it's on the screen, if it's in the stands, if it's in the clubs, just it's do it or die.
You started your Laughter's the Best Medicine show, Kev, like the week after Chick got canceled.
Yeah.
So, like,
yeah, you did.
Yeah, you emailed me and you were like, want to be on a show? And I was like, yes, please.
You pivoted, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and then I was doing a daily show. Then we started doing this daily show.
Yeah, those are good examples, right? That's
kind of like, I feel like it's made me say yes more, because I'm invested. I'm like, well, I can't leave now. Like, you can't take a break now, because they'll forget you exist.
It's a different format. Like, I know last night we have one more week of the Best Medicine, but last night we had.
Where can we find that, Kev, if we want to watch the Best
on
Medicine?
YouTube.
Oh, thank you so much for telling everyone.
The Best Medicine.
The Best Medicine. NCTV 18 has a channel. It's the Nantucket Community Television channel, and they've produced it, really. And I got Bob Lee to host it. But last night was really interesting, because look, I think sometimes people think comedians are like, doing, the fart noise under their arm, and
Right.
many of them are Jackie Flynn, but there are others that aren't. No, there are some very, very bright people and worldly people who have traveled and met people all outside of their comfort zone, or they should have anyway. And last night we had a really great discussion about race, in this country. And, as
Good.
like I used to say, Wally Collins was on last night, and Carl Yard again came on, who you were on, Jane, with last week. But, I remember working with Wally, and we would go to a show. He would be the only Black person in the room with hundreds and hundreds of people.
And how does that feel?
It always struck me as very odd. And then we told the story where Carl Yard and I had worked together on a Saturday night up in New Hampshire or Maine, and we're driving home on a Sunday morning, and I see a Mercedes-Benz 240 SL Sport Coupe parked on a lawn with a big for sale sign on it. I parked my car. I jumped out, and he's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" I go, "I'm going to check out the car." He goes, "The cops are going to come." I go, "What do you mean the cops are going to come? If the car is for sale, I'm checking it out." He goes, "They're going to think I'm the getaway driver," and that he was getting all nervous because he was Black. And he said, if I got out of our car and walked over to that car, he goes, I guarantee you some bad stuff would happen. So he goes, I stayed in the car, and I'm like, that never crossed my mind.
I think we're all learning a lot this week, but Catherine Rose is flashing us. So you've been great, Kevin. It was very interesting.
Ladies.
All the stuff, and just good luck in LA, and don't forget us back in Boston. And
never. I'll see you all. You were supposed to be a part of the festival this year, so.
Oh, thanks. Well, next year, I hope. Yeah. Thanks.
All right.
See you.
Bye, Kath.
Guys. Talk to you later.
Bye, Kev. Love you, honey.
Bye, honey.
You guys. See you, Kath. Don't get divorced. He seems like a nice guy.
Thank you.